Hello everybody, I hope you guys are all enjoying your day. Today we're going to be looking at your weekly forecast spanning from today, which would be the 26th, all the way until next Sunday, which would be the 2nd of February. Now, we're going to be going over your temperature anomalies, your precipitation anomalies, and then at the end of the video, your special event segment, where we're going to be going over a couple storms that could be impacting parts of the United States, and we're going to be going over that so that you can plan out your work week. So, let's get right into it here. Let's start off with your temperature anomaly forecast. We have your above average conditions, and anywhere in this yellow you're at least slightly above average, and this is for much of the country except for parts of the deep south and southeastern United States. Pretty much everyone else is under those slightly above average conditions. Now, here is your moderately above average. If you're in just that yellow shade right now, then you're not going to really notice it too much. It's going to be a little bit cooler some days and a little bit warmer some days, but on paper it should be above average. But if you are in this second shade, this orange shade here, and you're in this moderately above average, this is where it's going to be more noticeable that you have multiple days that are above average. So this is over parts of the northwest up through the northern plains and into the Great Lakes and interior northeast, where you have this moderately above average. You're going to have multiple days during the week where you're 10 to 15, even 20 degrees above average. Now, we even have a third shade of above average here in this red. This is your well above average, and this can be for parts of Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and through most of North Dakota, the northern half of Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan, all seeing these well above average conditions. Now, you have this very high Arctic high pressure, these very high heights up in Canada, just across the border into Canada, and that's going to allow for some very warm conditions over this area, and some of that warm air is going to actually spill into parts of the northern plains. So that's why you're seeing all that well above average. It's going to be multiple days where you're 15, 20, 25 degrees above average in some of these locations, and this will be pretty much every day. I don't think you're going to see in some of these areas, I don't think you're going to see a day where you're even 5 degrees above average. It's pretty much all the time going to be well above average. So that's why you are in this third shade of red here, and this is again going from the 26th through the 2nd of February. Now, here is your slightly below average area. We have two shades here. This is your first shade of below average in this lightest blue. This is going to be for parts of southern Texas through into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, through Georgia, South Carolina, a little bit of North Carolina as well there, and then into all of Florida as well, where you're going to be seeing these slightly below average conditions. Now, you're going to see a couple days here where it's going to be above average, and you're also going to see a couple more days where it's going to be below average. Now, if you live in Texas, Louisiana, even into western Mississippi, your colder days are going to be during the beginning part of the week, and then if you live out in this area, it's going to be during the latter half of the week where you're seeing those below average conditions. Now, here is where you are seeing moderately below average conditions, so it's going to feel even more noticeable in these areas that you had a pretty chilly week, and you'll only see about 2 to 3 days of below average in this area, or above average in this area. And this can be for southern Texas, the coastal areas, and then also into the southern half of Louisiana and the coastal part of Mississippi, where you're going to be seeing moderately below average conditions throughout this 7-day time frame, where you're going to be going about 4 to 5 days in a row, pretty much, where it's going to be below average over these areas. And it is also going to be a bit stormy. So, of course, when it is stormy, you're going to be experiencing some cooler conditions. It's not going to be super hot in these areas when it's storming. So, there is going to be quite a little bit of precipitation in these areas, and that's why it is going to also contribute to it being moderately below average this week. Now, here's your precipitation forecast, and we're going to start off with your below average region here, and this is for much of the United States. This is your slightly below average, and this is spanning from the southwest and south central United States and up through the central plains and the northern plains and into the Great Lakes, Ozarks, and even parts of the southeast and mid-Atlantic and through into all of the northeast, where you're seeing some slightly below average conditions here. Now, it's not going to be too noticeable if you're just in this shade, and you'll still probably see a lot of, or a bit of precipitation, maybe half an inch to an inch of precipitation if you do live in these areas, but If you live in these areas, this is where you're seeing probably under 2 tenths of an inch of precipitation the entire week, to even some areas receiving no precipitation. And this is over parts of the northern plains, Midwest, Great Lakes, and into parts of the Northeast, as well as parts of the southwestern United States, where you're seeing these moderately below average conditions. And these areas could receive up to close to no precipitation, and especially if you live in this darker shade of brown here, this well below average, and this is where you're really going to see almost zero precipitation, pretty much no precipitation, except for the storm that is departing, and that would be that was the winter storm that we talked about for multiple days, and we did a lot of coverage on that, and that's going to be departing. Once that departs, pretty much no more precipitation. Closer to the Great Lakes, you could see a bit of lake effect, but that's pretty much it for this week. It's going to be a very dry week until you get into next week, and into next weekend and early next week, where you could actually see a storm system, and we'll talk about that in our special event segment of the video later on. Now, here's your above average conditions, and we have this over parts of the south central United States and the deep south, including the Gulf Coast. So for Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, and through Arkansas, all of Louisiana, and into eastern Texas and eastern Oklahoma, you are going to be seeing some slightly below or above average conditions as far as precipitation, and that's also for parts of the Pacific Northwest, where you're going to be seeing some slightly above average conditions as well. Now, these areas are going to have a couple days where it's going to be stormy over these areas, and especially over parts of the Northwest, it's going to be very stormy. You're just going to have a lot of moisture coming onto shore, and I did make a video on this 2 days ago as of when I'm recording this, which is on Sunday. 2 days ago, I did make a video about the Northwest and how stormy it's going to be, so you can go check that out. And we did actually go a little bit more in depth on why this is happening and where all this moisture is originating from. So you can go check that out. It is on my channel. Now, we're going to even add your second shade of above average, and this is going to be over parts of Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, where you're seeing this moderately above average. So the reason you guys aren't in this well above average, I didn't make a well above average region, is because you guys average a lot of rainfall. So compared to your average, even though you're seeing 4 or 5 inches of rainfall, maybe even 6 to 7, 8 inches of rainfall, or a couple feet of snowfall, depending on your elevation. You guys average a lot of precipitation already, so it takes a lot more to get you well above average than, let's say, somewhere in the desert Southwest, where they don't get as much precipitation. So this is all based on your average. So over these areas, just moderately above average, but just know that pretty much every day you're going to have rainfall in these areas. And again, you can go check out my video I posted a couple days ago. Now, here is your special event segment of the video, and this is your first special event, and this is going to be going, timestamp is at the bottom here, from the 26th through the 4th of February. So you're going to have all these storms, and in my video I did go over that all this moisture is coming all the way from eastern Asia and parts of the central Pacific, where you're seeing that moisture being brought up and around this high pressure that's off the shore of Southern California, and that's bringing all this moisture and looping it around and into Northern California, into Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana. All of those areas are going to be receiving that very constant precipitation in the form of snow or rain, depending on your elevation, and that is originating from these very moist climates and very moist areas that are going to be bringing this very moist air, and that's going to be allowing for storms pretty much every day, with maybe a 12 to 18 hour break in between storms. So that's why I put you guys under stormy, and this can be going all the way through the 4th of February. So it's just going to be a very stormy pattern that sets up, and a lot of storms are going to be impacting you guys in the Pacific Northwest. Now, here is your next special event, and actually your last special event, because there isn't a lot to talk about this week. It's going to be a very boring week in weather. Now, this is going to be going from the 31st, so the last day of the month, through the 3rd. And we actually have this nor'easter that's going to be coming, at least right now what it looks to happen is it looks to form somewhere over eastern Texas and then kind of move through the deep south and then potentially move up the East Coast, so this could be a nor'easter, and then eventually, or it could actually kind of move a bit inland. The storm track, when it merges with this northern piece of the jet stream, you have this northern jet stream that's kind of doing something like this. So if this system can, this is your southern jet stream, right? So if these two can meet somewhere in the middle, this is where you're gonna have your snowstorm. So wherever these two pieces of energy meet up, your cold air and your moist air, where they meet, you're gonna have some sort of wintry precipitation over those areas. Something with this storm is you don't have a lot of cold air on the backside. You're gonna be very marginal in the terms of temperature, at least what it looks to be like right now. You're gonna have these temperatures 33, 34, 32, 31, 30. So your temperatures are gonna be very close to that freezing line, and it's really gonna depend. If you're 2 degrees below, 2 degrees colder, you might see a foot of snow. If you're 2 degrees warmer, you might see just rain. So it's a fine margin, and that's something that I'm definitely going to be talking about within the coming week as we get closer to this event. Really, it's going to be a complex system, and it's going to be your first nor'easter or a coastal storm that rides up the coast that we've seen pretty much this entire season, this entire winter season. So it is going to be very exciting and fun to forecast, and I hope to do that on this channel as we get closer to this event. Anyways, guys, that is going to wrap the video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you never miss a video when I upload. Anyways, guys, that was Eli the Weather Guy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.